somebody I look up to greatly. Probably one of the smartest people that I know. And if you've ever seen this guy speak, like if you've ever seen him on stage, it's crazy how good he is, how he just grabs an audience and reels them in and then just delivers fire. This is the one, the only Joe St. John. Joe, welcome, brother. I mean, gosh,
Brian, you're making me blush, dude. That's hard to do, and you're making me blush. It's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you.
It's interesting you say. I feel the same way about you. Like I've known Paul Brown since he was spinning deals, and the guy is the real deal. I think he's one of the absolute best trainers in the finance game and automotive right now. And I'm just honored to be here and be a part of such an awesome event that you all are putting on for our community. So, Paul, like, thank you for having me here, for letting me be a part of this. I'm honored, and I'm really excited to dig into some really exciting stuff.
Oh yeah, bro. I mean, you bring so much value to it. The fact that we got 45 minutes or an hour of your time is just blows my mind, because I know that you're busy and you're doing things. And so you're day one. I mean, you're day one. I've got a session at 10:30 Eastern. Then Adam's going to have the two number one salespeople, and then we're bringing you in. So Joe, I mean, for the people out there who there's probably like one or two people who just don't know. Tell us a little bit about you, man, because you're the guy. I mean, you've been involved in so many things that have innovated our industry and just helped us make these amazing strides forward. Just tell us a little bit about you. Then we'll talk about what you're going to talk about. But
man, I appreciate
people get to know you.
I appreciate that, Paul. Yeah. Man, like in my head, I'm just an old car dog. Like I started selling cars in 1998. I worked through every channel in variable ops. So I spent a good chunk of time in F&I. I was an F&I director at a high volume Toyota store. I ran the desk, GSM, GM, like basically everything inside of the retail world, outside of fixed ops, I spent a ton of time with. Now, I do have fixed op experience, but it's all related to being a GM running a store. Yeah. But for me, it's really surreal sometimes when I'm doing something like this, or I'm, in a meeting, or I'm presenting at NADA Dealer Academy where I'm a guest instructor. Because for me, like in my head, I still feel like a guy that's working the desk and like yelling at salespeople and trying to decide at 4:00 what we're going to eat for lunch, and like, trying to like close out my month and get all these deals RDR'd and make sure my that I've got everything in accounting that can be in accounting. Like all of those things I feel like are just still part of who I am. But basically since about 2016, I've been on the technology side of this business, working with a couple of companies that I think have revolutionized some of the way that this business is being done today. And it's been really fun to be on the forefront of that with a mindset that is very influenced and colored by, a long chunk of my adult life being lived inside of a dealership, working long hours and grinding and putting that together. So for me, it's pretty overwhelming to be in a situation. I was at a dealership last week with people I know that work at the dealership I've known for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, I'm at the desk and it's just like the action and activity. And I'm like, oh, like, I love this. Like there's something about it that is, and there's, for me, like you probably, I can identify with this even more than our audience, because the people that are coming to something like this, they're in the dealership. Like they're taking turns every day. I was doing F&I training this morning for a group of like single point of contact salespeople in New York. And like, there's something really magical about being able to sit down with another human being that comes in with a point of view of like, I'm not doing any of this. Like I've never bought any of these things. I'm not ever buying. I'm an accountant. I'm very like numbers and data driven. And then 30 minutes later, they're like, I don't usually buy these things. Like I'm glad I got to meet you. Like that shift. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Courtney Fitchner. She's a product manager at AutoFi. She literally builds technology now, and she was a 30 unit a month salesperson and a high performing F&I manager. And we were laughing because she was at the dealership with me doing the like interviews of our users. she's laughing. She's like, she's like, I think back on my career, the amount of times that like somebody would hug me after their finance term when they bought everything. And like that, I think that there's a part of that that this business gives you a dopamine hit on the regular. And now that I'm on this side, like it's fun for me to get to plug back into that, even if it's for a few days. And so my background is all retail. I've been on the technology side now for going on a decade or more than, going on a decade. I still get to spend a ton of time out in the market being with dealers. I went on the road last year and sold cars for like weeks, where I would show up in like undercover boss and be like, hey, this is our new salesperson, Joe. And so I would just say that like automotive industry has my heart. Like and for reasons that are very personal, my mom was like basically the first fixed ops manager, like first service writer for Chevy back in the 80s. Like so she met my dad, who was a finance manager. Like it's just in my blood, and everything in my life has basically been an offshoot of what this business can create. And so for me,
born from it.
Yeah, bro. Listen, it is an unhealthy connection between me and the car business. Like, we had a family Christmas party this weekend, and the amount of like, we don't play games where we're not trying to like cheat each other out of it. Like, it's just part of who we are. And so for me, I'd say it's woven into the fiber of who I am and how I operate in the world. And so, man, I have a deep love for this business. Like I love F&I. I love selling. I love all of it. In a certain
way. I mean, it shapes you in a certain way that's different than any other retail industry. And it doesn't matter if you're in other types of sales.
Yep.
There's something specific about the automotive industry and I think a lot of it is because we look at where we came from and we look at where we are now and we go, we're doing so much better. Just being customer centric and being better people and being more transparent. And you see this evolution and this growth, and you go, we're changing an industry that everybody at some level, people don't want to be involved with it, right? People want to buy new cars, but they don't want to talk to guys and gals that are selling cars or that are selling products, stuff like that. So I think as an industry, we're doing better, but there's so many things that we could still do better. And so much of the stuff, and you probably see this, I see this all the time, that when you're in it and you're inside the four walls, there's certain things that you just don't see. You're
in the forest.
You're so close to the problem, and you need at some level a little bit of distance to go, why did we ever do it that way, right? What were we thinking? It wasn't good for the customer. It wasn't good for us. It wasn't good for anybody. And when I talk to you, those are some of the things that I always get those takeaways, because you have that high level problem solving brain that looks at it and goes, okay, well, we can just, if we sprinkle a little bit of dust here and change things here and just do it just a little bit differently, we can have a drastically different outcome. And that's what I like about you, because your thought process is different than a lot of people, because I find that we're kindred spirits, and that we go, how do we create a better experience for the customer? And if the customer has a better experience, then everything gets better, right? CSI is better, retention's better, gross profit's better, everything's better if the customer's smiling through the process. So it's kind of so you're going to talk about your session is going to be about the digital revolution, and yours is actually called Digital Revolution. It's more than just a website. Give us a little bit of flavor of what you're going to talk about in your session.
Yeah, so I think that
don't give away all the goods though, because people have to register that. I mean, to get the Joe St. John magic, they got to register and watch. But
so I would say, Paul, it's really aligned to what you and I were just discussing, right? To what you were just saying. I went out on the road and I sold cars and then worked the desk and took turns like all over the country. And I'm talking like, I wanted to be in every kind of industry, like, Buick GMC store and a Subaru store in California that's like a single. I want to be in all of it. And what I think I saw was basically what you've described, which is, when you're in this game all the time and you live at the dealership, the world is that dealership. And there's this it's almost like the problem. I just accept the problem because I got a job to do, right? I was at a store. It's like, you just accept this is what I got to do this thing. So I'm just going to do it this way. And then, and you don't have time to like separate out and think about that problem. And so for me, the problem I saw was what you just described, right? Like, we know, you intuitively know as a car dog, right? Like, I can have two customers buy the same exact Camry on the same day, and one of them, it's a goat rodeo. Like, everything that could go wrong goes wrong. Like, the car's got trash in it, it's out of gas. My salesperson's having a bad day. They're like grumpy. The like customer and salesperson don't get along. Like, the paperwork's a nightmare. We have to recontract them because we use the wrong form. Like, all the stuff that can go wrong goes wrong. It's a grind. Like, they're there for way too long. Same exact day, we saw another customer as that same white Camry, and it goes down like a Disney movie. Like,
Right.
They're the ones like everything could go right, goes right. Like, they love the car. It's perfect. It's backed in for their appointment. They get here. Salesperson's like they just had closed another deal. So they're happy. And they're like, it's ready to go. Finance has no wait. They go right in. They get with like Alicia, my best finance manager, and they love her. They're like giving her a hug afterwards. You know, the customer that like afterwards they bring you like cookies and a thank you card.
Love them.
Okay, we love that customer.
Yeah.
But we know as car people, one of those two customers paid me all the money, and it's the second one. And so I when you take these eyes that have been out of the game and you go back into the game, you start to see these patterns of where things break down that are really solvable. And you see these moments where, I'll ask you this, if you're working at a dealership today, do car deals come at us like every hour on our schedule? Is that shit come in waves, right? Like,
it'll literally for 5 hours and we get 12 deals working.
Yeah, it's 4 hours. You can swing a dead cutter around and not hit a customer. And now all of a sudden it's boiler room and I got a line of people in front of me at the desk. And you find that it's this cyclical up and down. And because of that, we have these moments where it's go time. And I get back from my test drive and I leave my customer on the showroom and I get to the desk and there's 3 people in front of me and it takes me 15 minutes to get the numbers out to that customer. And you watch, like, if you haven't been in the deal, like when you're there every day, you don't really see it. When you're like there, you're watching, you're like, oh man, like look at that customer's losing steam. You see him go from like, oh yeah, to like, right? And so I think there's these areas where with simple little tweaks in the way that we operate our processes, and with the technology that's available out there, we can remove these areas where, well, when's a customer's buying temperature the highest? It's the moment they get back from a test drive. They're like laughing at my jokes. They're licking the paint off the car. And I set them out there for 15 minutes before I ask them to say yes to something. And I think about, like, you sit anywhere, Paul, for 15 minutes. What does it make you want to do?
It makes me want to get up and leave.
Okay, so think about this.
So think about this.
Before I ask you to say yes to this purchase, I'm going to pre-program you to feel like leaving. Like, how does that make sense? And so I think that what I'm going to cover in my session is living in dealerships for weeks. As someone that used to live in dealership as my life, what are the key things I saw that were breakdowns in what we do that lead to a subpar customer experience and are insidiously eroding our gross profit and our closing rates? And what can we do almost immediately to start solving some of those things to elevate that customer experience, and in doing so, drive our gross profitability up? And so for me, I'm going to dive into what the key learnings were and what a dealer can do right now, like you can execute today to improve those outcomes that you're hoping for, which is more of that second customer that's bringing me cookies and a thank you card and paying all the money and buying the platinum program. Like, that's what we're going to focus on tomorrow.
And I love the word that you use, because now that you've labeled it, I can't think of a better word: insidious. Yeah. Right? Because insidious it's sneaky. It's happening without people noticing. It's just kind of, it's kind of, it's all these things, you're unaware of it at some level. And that's exactly what it is, right? We're doing things, and here's the thing. We're so dumb sometimes as car guys, we haven't figured out, and customers scream it at us. They go, hey, get to me, speed to customers fast, speed to transaction fast. That's what they want. They've been saying that for forever. I don't want to spend 3 hours. I don't want to spend that kind of time. Do it faster, do it easier. And we still haven't done it well yet, So it's like you were talking about, when a customer is like super excited and jacked up about the car, they come back from a test drive. I don't know, and maybe somebody will figure it out, because I just thought of it when we're sitting here. I'm like, we've got all these, my new truck has a 15-inch touchscreen in it. The best time to do the deal would be park the car on the test drive and have have a
Yes.
menu or a proposal pop up on that screen and negotiate the deal sitting in the car. You know, I mean, that's when the customer's most likely to buy and buy with, you know, at some level of emotion. I mean, the
Yes.
numbers need to work too, but if the customer is involved in the process and they're emotional about the process, it doesn't hurt us. Never hurts,
Yes.
you know, when they're hyped up.
I think the more that we can give customers the feeling of agency in building their deal for them, the more that it becomes their idea. And one of the first things I learned in F&I school was if I want somebody to say yes to something, it's got to be their idea.
For
And I
sure.
think that we have a lot of opportunity that's better than a sheet of paper with a Sharpie scribbles on it to let a customer feel like they have agency and ability to make their own decisions. And in doing so, you watch that like body language wall come down and you're going to go, okay, I'll do that. And like, that's where I want to get to. And I think that's where our industry can get to if we think critically about what we're doing and how little changes can lead to real big results. You've seen that in the F&I office. As small changes can literally unlock thousands and thousands to millions of dollars in profitability with just little tweaks and shifts. And I think that it's not as big as people think it is. I think it can be some very small changes in the way that we think about working a car deal, the way that we process a car deal that can lead to some significantly better outcomes.
Yeah. And you said something else earlier that is probably one of the truest truths in the automotive industry is that the happier a customer is, the more gross profit we make. So those two are directly related. So if we're not spending more time trying to find ways to make the customer feel more comfortable and more at ease, then we're costing ourselves gross profit, right? And if that's our focus, if we have that servant leading mindset, all the other stuff just follows. I mean, like the stores that you go into that are just killing it, they're killing it because they have a good culture. And the culture is customer centric, and it's all about delivering a good experience to the customer, whether they buy or not.
Yes.
And and they have just figured it out. Unfortunately, the rest of us have just got to get there. You know, we're gonna have to drag.
But the good news is there's a there, right? Like there's a there. We can.
It's attainable.
Yes, and if you just execute it effectively, and you stay focused consistently, the outcome will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, brother, I appreciate you taking the time to go on this live with me. I am so jacked and stoked to see your segment. It's one of the ones that I'm most excited to see. We appreciate you being a part of this, because when we can bring, the people that know you, and they get it, right? They get it. But the people that don't know you are going to get to know you. And I think that that's going to be good for everybody in the industry, because if we can have more Joe St. John's running around, we just get better. That's just my opinion.
I don't know if I want more Joe St. John's right now.
I do. I want more guys with your mentality and with your heart and mind out there helping us change kind of some of the perceptions of this business and just helping us be better.
Yeah, appreciate that, Paul. I'm so fired up, man. I'll see you all in my session. I can't wait. There's a sign-up link down in the comments. Let's go. Let's do this.
It's going to be amazing. Thank you, my brother. You have a great day.
All right, you too, my man. I'll see you.
All right. Bye.